Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. It's live. You know what to do by now. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think about all the latest news stories. The big one. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to get straight into it, yeah? There's no need to go, we're going to talk about transfers, we're going to talk about this. I want to get stuck into this one straight away because this is off the back of basically the collapse of the Super League. Now, Liverpool's FSG owners, the Fenway Sports Group, I think they're called, based out, I believe, in Boston, who bought the club in 2010, around that time. They've put the club up for sale, or they've said they're inviting offers for the club. Looks like they're ready to go to sort of leave Liverpool and sell up and move on. Now, there's several reasons that you can look at this. One reason is the sort of the end of the Super League idea, as far as we know, for now. That was sort of a story that came out a couple of weeks ago, or certainly earlier this week, that the Super League was being put more or less shelved because there was always this issue or this thinking or feeling that despite the fact that the Super League, you know, came back a couple of years ago, didn't get off the ground, the fans protested. I'm sure a lot of you were involved in that, whether it was physically at the games or on social media, letting everyone know what you thought about that horrendous idea. I know we did. Then that collapsed. That was a potential money spinner for the likes of Liverpool and their owners. Manchester United, of course, the Glazers and our owners, sitting not like they need any money. I think they were involved. Then you had Real Madrid, of course, and a few other clubs as well on the continent. I forget how Chelsea were involved as well. Anyway, it collapsed. And that was a few billion quid that a lot of these owners could have got that they're no longer able to get. Now, this week or this month, certainly we've heard that it's not going to become a thing again. It's not going to happen. It looks like it's being put completely on the back burner, which could have encouraged the Fenway Sports Group, FSG, to look at it and go, okay, that's one reason why we're not going to stick with Liverpool, because it is getting tougher to compete. We know you've got the likes of City with their billions. You've got, obviously, Newcastle in the frame now with the amount of money that the Saudis are putting into Newcastle. So it is going to be harder for owners to compete, to get their clubs to compete by spending money. They're going to have to spend more and more money. Now, there's an interesting piece in the BBC about this, and I will get onto the Glazers in a minute, but this is all sort of related, how FSG relates to where the Glazers are at. And it says here, it sort of lists reasons, like analysis, and this has come from football finance expert Kieran Maguire. Kieran's been on this channel a few times. He's, you know, he does the price of football. He wrote a book on that. He is literally a football finance expert. Great guy, big football fan. I think he supports Brian, but we're all that against him. And he's been speaking. He spoke to the BBC, or they've got a quote from him on 5 Live. Now, he says there's all these reasons why the Liverpool owners would look to sell. He says Fenway Sports Group have seen the amazing price that Chelsea was sold for, 4.25 billion. Now, listen, I dislike Liverpool Football Club as much as anyone, but there's no denying if you can get 4.25 billion for Chelsea, you could probably get the same for Liverpool, if not more. Liverpool are, pains me to say it, a massive club. They are. They're probably the second biggest club in England behind Manchester United. Well, they are the second biggest club in England behind Manchester United. There's no probably about it. So you look at that, the owners will have looked at that and go, wow, there's some big money on the table here. And also that they've got additional rival in Newcastle United. So Liverpool have also got this rival in Newcastle United now, who have thrown a bit of a spanner in the works. 6 into 4 in the Champions League doesn't go, while 7 into 4 goes worse. Because you look at it, there's always going to be Arsenal, United, Spurs, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and now you've got Newcastle, and I'm missing someone out, whoever. Anyway, you've got all these teams competing for the top 4, so it's getting tougher. Newcastle's owners brought the club for the same price FSG paid for Liverpool, 300 million. FSG could easily sell for 10 times that amount, if not more, if they are going to consider offers. And the Premier League remains an incredibly lucrative proposition to investors and ultra-high worth individuals. He then goes on to say other stuff like the pound is weak at present, which makes the deal even more attractive if those investors are coming from overseas. I think we were looking at, me and Joe Smith are looking at it, and I think the pound is about 1.15 against the dollar or whatever. So there's that as well. There's also other little sort of points. Arsenal have gone 5 years without being part of the Champions League, and Liverpool's owners will have noted the losses Arsenal have racked up over that time. They don't want it for their own business. Don't forget as well, Liverpool aren't guaranteed to get in the Champions League. Yes, they've got a good squad, and there's chances are they probably will make the top 4, but it's not a given. They've struggled this season. So there's that as well. And also it says it will probably mainly be American investors looking at Liverpool. The Chinese government has dissuaded its corporations from investing in football. So that's one area which has disappeared. I'm not sure there are many domestically that would realistically have close to 4 billion to buy Liverpool. I'm going to get in some of the comments and I'm going to sort of bring this back to Manchester United because obviously I've spoken enough about Liverpool, but it is relevant. Man United Shavon says, Jay, I will like this video if you finally respond to my wedding invitation. No, Jay, no wedding. Listen, I don't want to cost someone his wedding. I must have slipped through the net there. I'll have a look at that, my friend, because, yeah, that's the last thing. I get enough grief off my lady friend the fact that we're not married without wrecking other marriages. Joshua says, yes, Jay, Glazers out, like twice on my account and my missus. Good stuff. Dank Mank says, 100% my dude. Santa Notch says, Kieran's top. He is. Charlie Hughes says, Glazers out 58 in. Obviously talking about the 1958 group who've been fighting a good fight against the Glazers. Harry Yule says, American owners don't like non-franchise sports. By franchising it produces sure money every year. Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable organisation in the NFL, and they haven't won it since the 80s. Yeah, this is the sort of ring fencing type thing that was going on with the Super League, wasn't it? It was going to be a case of you didn't matter where you finished in the league. You were always going to be in the European Super League. It's a similar thing. I mean, I'm not au fait with American sports at all, but from what I gather, you don't get promoted and relegated in the major leagues. You're sort of in it, aren't you? And there seems to be that sort of element to this Super League idea. Now, how does this all fit in with Manchester United? Well, Gary Neville, who was on the overlap this week, I think, well, no, Adam McCall's on there as well, so we'll have a little bit of a video coming out later on this week. There's a report in the Mirror here, and it says, the Glazer family could follow Fenway Sports Group's lead at Liverpool by trying to sell Manchester United in the near future, according to Gary Neville. Now, listen, when Gary Neville talks about things like this, he's someone who's got quite a good insight into it, I believe, anyway, because he is a football owner himself. He part-owned Salford. He's had dealings with the club because of the hotel football. He's a businessman, so he knows a little bit about business. He's not just an ex-footballer. He's not just a pundit. So, you know, you'd expect him to have quite a good handle on this. He says, Liverpool owners Oh, sorry, he didn't say this. This is coming from the Mirror. It says, Liverpool's owners FSG made headlines on Monday by releasing a statement confirming they were looking for outside investment in the club. The group said that under the right terms and conditions, we would consider new shareholders. But for now, FSG, remains fully committed to the success of Liverpool. Now, FSG's statement also made reference to a number of recent changes of ownership and rumours of changes in ownership at Premier League clubs. Now, Chelsea's the obvious example. The Mirror goes on to say, Todd Boehly's consortium completed a £4.25 billion takeover in May. And Neville feels that Chelsea's valuation has turned heads and changed the landscape overnight, because a lot of people looking at Chelsea and other clubs, and they think, okay, maybe you can get 3 billion for someone like Chelsea. I know it's a bit weird with Chelsea because they had obviously Abramovich and there was sort of things that he wrote off or he had to write off or whatever. But you're looking, okay, Chelsea, yeah, 3 billion or whatever, 4.25 billion. That sounds like a bit of a game changer. If owners are thinking, right, if we could get 4.25 billion for Manchester United or for Liverpool, whatever, or around that mark, that's probably $1 billion more than they expected. It's a lot of money for these owners. And don't forget, the overriding factor with the owners at Manchester United, they didn't put any money in. They didn't have any money to put in. Manchester United owners got this club with a load of leveraged debt, with all these loans, these horrendous loans that ploughed us into debt to buy the club. We're using the club as the very asset to secure these loans upon. So they didn't put anything in. It's not like the Glazers are on the hook for loads of money. They're not. So all this to them is profit. They pay off presumably going to pay off the debt, and then they can walk away with a few billion quid in the pocket. They've absolutely made it work for themselves, not for the club, because they've more or less almost wrecked Manchester United Football Club, and I think they're absolute parasites. But for them, to get 3 billion quid off 17 years? And it's not even an investment. They don't have any money. They've just got this club with all these loans, using the club as the asset to get the leverage and all that sort of stuff. As you can tell, I'm not exactly a financial expert, but you get the gist. And then they can walk away, with a huge profit, loads of money after doing nothing. So anyway, sorry, I digress. It says here, Liverpool were bought by FSG in October 2010 for 300 million, while the Glazers took over United in 2005 for 750 million. Neville thinks both groups will now be thinking hard about cashing in their chips. He goes on to say, he said, It absolutely makes sense. They haven't got the money, really, FSG, to compete with other teams in the league. They've developed the stadium, something Manchester United owners haven't done. They've got Jurgen Klopp at a point whereby how long is he going to be around for? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? There's this feeling that maybe Klopp could be heading towards the end game at Liverpool. I mean, it could, like Neville said, it could be 3 years or whatever. Some people referencing the seventh season syndrome. I think he suffered that Dortmund where things started to go wrong there. I don't know, but that might be a factor where they're looking at it going, how sort of long-term are we in a minute? Don't forget as well, the Liverpool team, you've got a lot of players who are 30 or over. I think Salah's roughly around 30. Firmino's not far off it, or is Van Dijk, Henderson. These are all players that you're going to look at and you go, we might need to start replacing these. So it's going to take investment. That's the point. I know they've all started bringing in other players as well, but they are going to need money to spend in the transfer market, especially if City spend money like they do, Chelsea spend money like they do. Todd Boehly seems to be playing a bit of football manager, doesn't he? With Chelsea, he's going for all sorts of players. And then you throw in Newcastle as well. And let's not kid ourselves. Listen, United are active in the transfer market. So if Liverpool are going to compete, they're going to have to spend money. So he goes on to say, if that Chelsea valuation, which at this moment in time sets the standards for valuation, they're thinking now is the time to potentially for us to get out, because if we dip down the league, if people think, hang on a minute, Burley's overpaid at Chelsea and it becomes a bit more of a struggle in the next couple of years, they're probably thinking now is the right time. And I think the Glazer family will be in a similar situation. I expect both of them will be looking for outs or part outs. The Glazer family, I think there's a couple of them that want to stay. But with FSG, they think put a 3 to 4 billion valuation on Liverpool when they raised some money coming out of COVID. That's where they put the valuation at. Now, we've heard this before about the Glazers, that there's a couple of them who like are keen. I don't know. Or one of them. Do you know what with the Glazers? I don't know which one's which. I don't really care. And to be honest with you, I lose track of how many there are. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was Malcolm on who died. Then there's Avram, there's Joel in the Darcy or something. And then all of a sudden, when these dividends get issued, there's people like, Tom, Dick and Harry coming out of the woodwork. All of a sudden, there's a load of new Glazers who are all taking loans and payments and dividends and all this. And you're like, who are you? I've never even heard of you before. So yeah, I lose track of how many there are and which one's which. But apparently there's some that want to keep hold of the club and like being involved in the club and all that jazz. I think it might be Joel, but don't quote me. And there's others who are like, listen, if we can make a load of money, let's sell up and do one, which is what we all want them to do. I'll get into some of the comments and then we'll get into a little bit more of this as well. Let us know what you think about this. Let us know what you think about a potential new owner. There's this quote here, a comment here. Andrew says, we need our money. How do people feel about that? How do people feel about an oil-rich nation like the Saudis have done at Newcastle, like the Abu Dhabi group have done at City, like is it the Qataris at PSG? Yeah, the Qataris at PSG. Is that what you want to see at Manchester United? I'll be honest with you, I don't. Yeah, I hate the Glazers, right? I wish they'd sell up and F off. I've been saying that constantly, right? And the only reason I'm not swearing is because it's early morning, right? They need to go. I want rid of him. I want them to go. I've always wanted them to go since 2005. I didn't even want them to come before they got here. But is a nation, a sovereign nation, taking over the club, or one of their subsidiaries taking over the club? Is that the answer? As a sort of sports washing enterprise? I wouldn't want to see that. Do you know what I mean? Seriously, I wouldn't want Manchester United to be used as a tool to distract from what a country's doing in terms of human rights abuse and stuff like that. That doesn't sit well with me. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Dank Mank says, I'd stop watching if that happened. Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about that. I just think that, listen, I hate the Glazers, but the horrible businessmen, I don't think they're necessarily human rights abusers. That's different. Doesn't necessarily have to be nations, could simply be businessmen. If it is businessmen, rich billionaire businessmen, fine. I haven't got a problem with that. If it is just, someone with a load of billions who wants to come in and take over Manchester United, I don't think it's great, because I think there's still going to be question marks there about the intentions and stuff. But would it be better than the Glazers? Probably. Jim Ratcliffe was the one everyone was banging on about, weren't they? Now, I think he's ruled himself out of buying Liverpool, and he more or less ruled himself out of buying Manchester United, because he said he actually, I think there was an element of being nice to them because he knows them, and also maybe if he did want to buy United further down the line, he doesn't want to start, any sort of conflicts. But he kind of praised the Glazers, didn't he? He said he knew him and he knew he had the club's best interest at heart. I think he did that live stream the other week. We covered it. When he was talking about his business interests and all that sort of stuff and how he'd grown. Do you know what? I watched it and I can't remember anything other than the United bit. I don't even know what he does. Something to do with, stuff. business. Oil. I don't know. Not oil. What is it? Plastics. I don't know. He does something, right? He was involved in cycling. He's made loads of money off whatever. Chemicals, I think it is. Yeah, chemicals. You know, doesn't matter. Anyway, when he was asked about Manchester United, and he said that, he more or less said that, you know, United's not for sale, and there was a time when maybe that could have happened, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen now. People keep going on about Jim Ratcliffe because he's Mank, born and bred, I think. I think he's from Failsworth. Manchester United fan as a kid. Did show an interest in Chelsea, so he has obviously got that little interest in Premier League teams. And also he bought, was it Nice? However, he mentioned the fact that there's not much value in buying a Premier League team. So it seems, I don't know, it seems a little bit like a lot of United fans, myself included, like, oh, Jim Ratcliffe could be the answer. And Jim Ratcliffe's like, maybe, I don't think so, though. So, yeah, let us know what you think. Who would be the answer to our problems? Abhinav Verma says, is Jimmy still in? Stuart Thomas says, chemicals. Yeah, I got there in the end. Thanks, Stu. Hit that like button. Let us know what you think. You know, do you think that a new billionaire owner is the answer? Do you think a consortium is the answer? Not a very popular option, I'll be honest with you. But I think, who was it we're speaking to? I think it might have been Mark Ogden, when we had Mark Ogden on. And we were talking about Jim Ratcliffe and new owners and stuff. And he said, you got to look that when Chelsea, I'm pretty sure it was him, forgive me if I'm getting that wrong, it was a different journalist. But he said that when you look at when Chelsea went up for sale, there was people like Jim Ratcliffe. I know you've got Todd Burley, but Todd Burley's the head of a consortium. A lot of it was consortiums who were going, right, okay, you got a lot of people, put money together, and we, you know, Todd Burley's like the head of it or the face of it or whatever. That could happen with United. You could get a situation with a consortium. Now, you have to look at the reasons behind that. Why do they want to buy Manchester United? Now, there's nothing wrong, I personally don't think, and again, I want you to get involved in the comments. I know this is a very emotive subject. I don't think there's anything wrong with sort of businessmen taking over United. If they want to not put the club in debt, maintain a success on the pitch that generates profit, and they want to make money out of it as well. It's not great, but I get it. Why do businessmen take over a club? They don't all do it for love. They want it because they want to make money. Now, if they want to make money without us being in loads of debt, and they look at the best way to make money is a successful team on the pitch, then that's all right, I think. I think I can live with that. I can live with people getting a dividend if there's no debt and the club's successful, and that's profit. What I don't like what the Glazers have done is, we're in all this debt, they're taking out loans and giving themselves dividends anyway. That's just not the way to run a business, and it's obviously the bleeding Manchester United dry. There's also the other factors with the Glazers that sometimes get overlooked in the press, not by the fans, but in the press. You know, we play most of our sort of under-23s games, under-21 games down at Leigh Sports Village. I've been down there a few times myself. The women's team's played down there as well. Why? Why have we not got a stadium near Old Trafford that you can play, you know, the academy team in? You look at Old Trafford, the state of Old Trafford. It's falling apart. There's leaks. There's leaks in the press box. You should be looking after the press because they're the ones who are going to write about you. But they're not even doing that. There's leaks there. The stadium's falling apart. And there's prices being quoted to sort of build a new one or to fix it. Anything from like 500 million to $1 billion. The Glazers ain't going to spend that. They haven't got it. So there's that. The element of, you know, the stadium's just had a criminal lack of investment. Then there's a training ground. Now, in 2000, Carrington was the state-of-the-art training facility. But we're not in 2000, we're in 2022. And it's gone from state-of-the-art to vintage. It's not, nothing's been done to it. All you ever hear when new managers come in is, oh, they've cut down the trees, or they've took some cameras down, or they've put some cameras up, or whatever. Cutting down trees, which I understand. I'm not having a dig at the manager. It's not the manager's responsibility to renovate the bloody training ground. But you need more than that. Our training facilities, our stadium, our academy facilities should be the best in the world. We are one of, if not the biggest club in the world. So why is our stadium not even probably in the top 20 in terms of the standard in world football? Why is our sort of academy facilities non-existent? We haven't even got any, really. It's, you know, Leigh Sports Village and Carrington or whatever. Why is our training facilities lagging behind? It's 22 years old since it last, you know, was developed or built or whatever. It's just not, it's not good enough. Let us know what you think. Harrison Fitzgerald says, we need people who are better, not just different. Tina Tillifson Soka, if the club gets sold to the Middle East, I might consider to stop following Manchester United. Santa Notch says there's the 1 billion debt plus money on transfers. Have to add close to 2 billion on the value of the club to buy United and put them out of the red. So it's a lot of money in it. It's just massive money. I like this from Rusty Sawblade. From state of the art to a right state. Yeah, that is what has happened with, I think, the training facility. Man United Shavon says, JV, visit Austria. I think this is a kid who's getting married, isn't it? I will invite you to a last football game and have a beer with a wine and schwitzel with you. I don't drink, bro. I'm 8 years sober, but I'll have a, if I make it over to Austria, I'll have a Pepsi Max cherry and a Wiener Schnitzel with you. Harry Yule says, make money, sure, but don't steal. Anthony Mock says, what is Conor McGregor on about buying Liverpool? Yeah, I saw this. Didn't Conor McGregor tweet about buying United once? Or am I imagining? Did he, Baggers? Yeah, he tweeted about buying United. Now he's tweeted about buying Liverpool. Listen, I'm sure Conor McGregor's got a lot of money. Has he got billions? I don't think so. I'm not sure. I mean, he might have some consortium. I think he's taking the mick. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's seriously interested in buying Liverpool Football Club. I'm not sure. John Cowell, see in the chat, says, the Glazers won't sell because it's costing them now. There's that. Everything the Glazers get in terms of dividends, in terms of these loans, in terms of these payments, it's just free money for a minute. But you get to the point where, would it be better for them? Would they make more money if they sold? Now, this, the things that Gary Neville alluded to there in his comments on the overlap, he said they may look at it and go, now is the time to sell. People might look at the Chelsea price and the sale of Chelsea and go, Chelsea, the consortium that bought Chelsea overpaid. So we're not going to spend 4.25 billion or whatever on a club. That's too much. Or it might not go like that, but that is the risk. There's also the fact that if Manchester United, even though I love Erik ten Hag and I think he's doing a fantastic job, if we're not in the Champions League next season, if we keep missing out on that money, that could affect the value. That could make it more difficult. United went big in the transfer window this summer, not because the Glazers, are any good or anything, because we had to. If we didn't go big can you imagine, right? If we didn't spend the money we've spent in the summer, if we didn't buy Anthony, if we didn't buy Martinez, if we didn't buy, obviously Malassi didn't cost a lot of money, but we still had to buy him, Casemiro. Right now we're 5th, yeah? Which is decent, I think. And I think there's been an improvement under Erik ten Hag. But if we didn't spend big in the transfer window, I don't think we'd be anywhere near that. So we had to spend that money just to compete. And we're still not in the top 4 at the minute. That's not a dig at the manager. I think we'll get there. But my point is, you have to spend money to stay competitive in the Premier League. You can't do it. You can settle. You can say, all right, then we're not going to challenge for the top 4. We're not going to challenge for titles. We're not going to, bother trying to get into Champions League. We'll just sort of kick around mid-table. But Manchester United can't do that, honestly. So, yeah, let us know what you think in the comments and the chat. Where do you see this going? Do you see this changing hands anytime soon? Do you agree with Gary Neville that there could be something going down here with the way that FSG are selling and that now Manchester United could be, do you think that could lead to Manchester United being for sale? Let's not forget as well, right? One of the reasons the Super League stopped being a thing is because of us lot. It's the fans. I don't mean me personally. I mean you lot as well, the fans. The fan reaction there cannot be underestimated. The protests were massive and they were everywhere. And I think Manchester United fans led the way. And we got a lot of stick at the time. You remember we got the Liverpool game postponed. Liverpool fans having to dig at us and all that. I'll be moaning now that the Super League's not a thing and, they're probably going to get more investment. It's just funny how it tables a turn, isn't it? When we were able to Glazers in signs when he came to Old Trafford a few months ago. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of what happened here. The fan protest. Listen, there's a couple of other stories to get through. I'll just whiz through these because, to be honest with you, I think the Glazer thing sort of dominated our thoughts on it. And some of these stories are just the same old, same old. There's a story in the Evening News, right? And I think I will get to some more chats because I think there's a super chat and a couple of other comments here. So we'll get to them. There's a story in the Evening News. Listen, can I apologise for this? Because I think I read this out every week because it's a different story with almost the same... hang on a minute. It's the same story, sorry, with almost a different headline every week. Manchester United handed Jude Bellingham transfer boost. Apparently, Chelsea are no longer in for Jude Bellingham. Right, okay. I'm not sure how, that's a boost for us, to be honest with you. The sort of common thinking is he's either going to go City, Real Madrid, Liverpool, or United. Be interesting to see what happens with that one, especially if Liverpool's got new owners. He's apparently going to cost about 129 million quid. That's what Dortmund want for him. So a lot of money. Could be a phenomenal talent. It's a risk, though, because, he's never kicked a ball in the Premier League. Will be interesting to see what happens with that one. There's a quote here from, and we'll get back to the Glazers thing just before we wrap up. There's a quote here from, if I can find it, there's a couple of things, sorry, in the Evening News. There's a United continue to monitor Diogo Costa. It says here that we're still looking at Diogo Costa, despite the goalkeeper recently signing a new long-term contract with Porto. So we could still be in for him. Let us know what you think about that one. It's a bit of a funny one, David De Gea, isn't it? Because You know, he's having a decent season. He's still on a lot of money. There's talk maybe he'll take a pay cut. There's question marks whether he'll fit into an Eric Ten Hag system long term. There's also this story, and this is coming from Mundo Deportivo. United on high alert as Memphis Depay demands. No, Memphis Depay doesn't depend. Memphis Depay demands free transfer. I'm not mad on this one, to be honest with you. Like, I just don't think Memphis Depay is at that very, very top level that you need. And listen, he came to United. There's nothing wrong with being at United and coming back if things, you know, if you improve, whatever. But I don't know. I just think he's all right. I just don't think he's quite at the levels you want. I mean, you look at his goal scoring record, he's decent. You know, since he left United, he went to Lyon. 5 in 17 in the league, then it was 19 in 36, then it was 10 in 36, then it was 9 in 13, then it was 20 in 37. So pretty decent record. La Liga, last season, 12 goals in 28 games, 13 in all comps. This season, to play 2 La Liga games, he's got 1 goal. I mean, it's all right. I don't know if it suddenly makes me think, oh yeah, since he left United, he smashed it. I don't think he has. I don't know, I'm not mad. And people go, oh, but it's a free. But if he's not the right player, he's not the right player. I don't think you should get him because he's cost now. I don't know. You might disagree. And maybe there's an element of me just remembering how bad it went for him at United towards the end of his Manchester United career. He proper fell off a cliff, didn't he, form-wise? SK in the Super Chat says, it's very tough. US investment will most likely lead to Super League versus Arabs, which we all know have issues. A group of investors invested in UK football and Manchester United is best. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Don't know if that's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments and the chat. We've had a real good discussion about the ownership. And as always, we will keep this conversation going. You know our opinion. If you don't know our opinion on the Glazers, it's we are always Glazers out. We want rid of them, but you also want owners who are going to come in and improve things at Manchester United Football Club. And could this happen now that we know FSG are looking at the end game at Liverpool? Could we see the Glazers doing the same at Manchester United? Hopefully they will. I've been Jay. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. We're back at 4 o'clock with a live debate. I think Webby and Scotty are here as well. Thanks for watching.